Welcome back, everybody. My name is Marcela Santos. I'm from the ALS Association in Colombia, ACELA, and I'm also honored to be part of the board of directors of the Alliance. Recently re-elected, so thank you. To start off this part of the programming today, we have a presentation from Efrat Karmi, Support Groups, a significant ongoing service to the Israeli ALS community. Efrat?
So what I wanted to tell you about is, first of all, I want to tell a few words about our organization. We serve a community of 600 ALS patients in Israel, and we are a very small organization. As Kathy said before, we are a staff of 5 people full-time, and we serve 600 families. From talking to many colleagues here during the years, I understood that support group has different definitions in different countries and organizations, and I wanted to present our perception of support group. A group of people who, with common experiences and concern, who provide emotional and moral support for one another in a safe environment. The groups are facilitated by professional social workers from our team with years of experience in our organization. So it's not about bureaucracy, and it's not about how to get rights from the government, and it's not a self-help group. It's a group that one of we have 4 social workers in the organization. Each one of them is moderating, facilitating a group like that. So currently, and even in this wartime, we have 5 support groups going on. I'll just name them, and then I'll go dive into each one of them. We have an ALS patients group, which is a text group, and I talked about it here before, and I want to talk about it again because it's very significant. We have an Arab ALS patients group. We have a group for spouses, group for family members. And the newest addition to our group system is a bereavement group, and that I discussed with colleagues here in the last few meetings, and now it's actually happening. So the first one is ALS patients, a text group. The target audience are PALS who are using eye gaze systems. So it's not for those who can still speak, it's for those who are communicating by writing. We use a special platform that was designated an Israeli platform that's called 7 Chairs. It's a platform. It's an app. It's an app that is dedicated to support groups in writing. They didn't think about ALS patients when they developed it. I came with the idea, and they were really excited about it. So we have like 7 chairs in the group. 7 people can join it, and it took us some time to realize how to run this group, because it's different. The characteristics are different from a regular support group because they are writing. You need to be patient. It takes longer for them to express themselves. You don't know if someone is in and out. They come in and then they don't respond, and you see that they are out. It has to take some adjustments and adaptation to understand. We had a learning curve. Now it's running for 5 years, and it's very, very significant. And they report this is the only safe space they can talk about their real feelings, about, I want to die, I don't want to be here anymore, what's the meaning of my life? One patient is saying, how can I still be considered as a mother if I'm not hugging my kids, or if I can't prepare their backpack to school? And this is a place, and they reported this is the only place that they can actually talk about those things, share it with this group of people, that they are only one in the planet that understand their feelings. So this is one, and I think it's pretty unique from what I know. I don't know if anyone else is doing a support group by text. The second one, which is very unique, we have one of our social worker is an Arab guy, and he's serving the Arab community in Israel. Israel, 20% of our population is Arab, so we are addressing their needs in a special way. And this group is for Arab ALS patients who speak. We found that it's very interesting culturally that they finding it very hard to text. They didn't want to use the other one that I showed you. They just wanted to be on Zoom and to speak. So we have 6 men speaking patients that are participating in this group, which of course it's difficult when they stop speaking. When they can't speak anymore, they are leaving the group, and it brings a new set of difficulties to the group. But it's a very interesting. Support groups are not common at all at the Arab population. In their cultural mentality, it's not used to go to support groups. So this is a very unique setting for us. Another group is for spouses. It used to be a frontal one, but since COVID, we are doing it on Zoom. And Zoom actually enabled us to open the group for a larger geographical area and allow people from all over the country to join. It's men and women. I tell you, it's mostly women. Women love support groups. They talk way easily about their feelings. Men are, no, I don't need it, I'm okay. So we're having a hard time to recruit men for the groups, but we try. We try to make it common by age and family status, so the subject that come up in the group will be familiar to everyone. So this group is younger women, 40, 50, that have kids at home and trying to understand how to maintain relationship, how to be a good spouse, not a caregiver, how to do with parenting issues. So this is the current group. All our groups are 8 to 10 weeks, and we then open them for new additions because, you know, the nature of the disease that people are leaving during the session of the groups. Another one is for family members. Now, what's the difference between family members and spouses? Spouses can be in family members, but we found that they have different needs. Family members can be parents, children, siblings, even good friends that take care of an ALS patient. They all can be in this group. It's different subjects than the spouses, so we try to divide them. It also used to be frontal, but since COVID we moved to Zoom, and we see the advantages of having the group on Zoom. Again, it's mainly women, and they are making it a very close and friendly networking. They talk even out of the group. They are performing friendships, and they really help each other during their facing the hardships of the disease. And the new kid on the block is the bereavement group. And this is for spouses that lost their husbands or wife to ALS. Of course, it's only women, so we're talking only about losing their husbands. Some of them were in our spouses group before and graduated into this group. It's a new one. It's only 6 weeks old, the group. We started it in the war, which was very tragic to all of us, so we just started it. We didn't define what's the how long you have to be a widow to join the group. We have a woman that lost her husband 2 weeks ago, and we are going up to 2 years. So we have 2 weeks till a year and a half now. This is the group. As I said, few of them participated in previous support groups, so they know the language, they know how the setting is, and it's easier for them. And what took us long, and you know, I talked about it here and consulted the Canadian team before and other teams, and we're talking about it, but it took us a long time to start it because the professional content is different. It's not how to deal with the disease as it's going, but it's the stage after. And our social worker that is actually facilitating this group, she had to do a lot of learning, a lot of reading, and preparation for this group with professional materials about bereavement. And she's done it. It took her a while, but she's done it. And we see already after 6 weeks, so it's about 4 meetings. I see you, it's okay. We see that it's going to be an amazing group. They are coming, they are not, even in this war time, said, do you want to skip a meeting? No. They're all showing up, and it's a group of 11 or 12 women. They show up every time, and it seems like it's going to be very, very significant for their coping. So, my conclusions are that support groups are a powerful tool. They create a safe space for sharing and learning. This is the only space where the participants can share deep and controversial topics. Like with the spouses, we see, they say this is the only place they can say, I don't want to do it anymore. I want it to end. Or I don't want him to die. I want it to go forever. Whatever the content is, this is the only place they can bring it. It's the only place where they meet other people who go through the same experiences. You know how all of us, you say ALS, you have to explain to your environment, what is ALS and what am I going through? And you know, everyone says, oh yeah, I know, but they don't really know. And this is the only place like people are sharing the same experiences. You don't have to start from scratch. You dive into the group and they all know exactly what you're going through. And they are really, really reducing the being alone feeling. And this is what all the participants in all those groups are reporting. We are not alone anymore, and this is our goal, for them not to be alone. That's it, I'm done. You see? On time? Perfect, on time with the addition.
So we have actually time for one more minute, for one more question, I'm sorry. You got excited there, didn't you?
Give me another minute.
Okay. Anybody has any questions?
Do you have a moderator of the text support group, or is it just the 7 chairs?
No, one of my social workers is moderating the group.
I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
We actually have time for another question. Real quick. No?
I can hardly hear.
If there are psychologists in your bereavement group.
A social worker, not a psychologist.
Okay.
Do you think it might be helpful?
Sorry?
Do you think it would be helpful to have one in the bereavement group?
My social worker that is facilitating this group, she's consulting with psychologists and other professionals, but she is the professional in the group, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Efrat.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, please welcome Pablo Aquino and Darío Riva for their presentation, The Social Impact of ALS in Argentina, Patients and Effective Familial Environment.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Marcela. I'm Pablo, the secretary and one of the co-founders of the ALS Association of Argentina. I'm also a member of the board of directors of the International Alliance. Darío Riva is here with me. He's the president and also a co-founder. So the project that we are presenting today is a social research project. It is important to say that research is not only about scientific research, but also it is equally important to address the social aspects of ALS. And so my job here is quite easy because we have a video presentation fully subtitled, and I just have to say, go ahead and play. And then we can have some space for questions. Thank you.
El proyecto de investigación Problemáticas sociales asociadas a la ELA en Argentina, los pacientes y su entorno afectivo familiar fue seleccionado a partir de una convocatoria conjunta de una entidad pública y una privada y se desarrolló entre marzo y agosto de 2023. Su objetivo general fue avanzar en una caracterización diagnóstica de la población que padece ELA en Argentina, entendiendo que esto incluye a los pacientes y a su entorno afectivo. El otro objetivo fue desprender sugerencias al respecto. El enfoque utilizado fue predominantemente cualitativo, se realizaron entrevistas en profundidad y semiestructuradas, tanto para personas con ELA como para sus familiares. También se diseñó e implementó una encuesta de más de 40 preguntas que está pendiente de procesamiento.
Aquí presentamos los principales resultados según dimensiones de análisis. Historia familiar y personal de la persona con ELA. En la mayoría de los relatos se aborda casi inmediatamente la aparición de los síntomas, omitiendo otros aspectos de la personalidad que parecerían quedar opacados detrás de la enfermedad. El momento diagnóstico aparece como una bisagra. Sabemos de la dificultad diagnóstica de la ELA y el largo proceso que se atraviesa en muchas ocasiones hasta llegar al diagnóstico. Cuando este llega puede haber una ambivalencia. Por un lado, por sentir un alivio de haber llegado finalmente a un diagnóstico y por otro lado, por el dolor por la noticia recibida. Recibir un diagnóstico de estas características representa un impacto subjetivo muy profundo. Se repite permanentemente la sensación de frialdad en el modo de dar la noticia. Los afectados se sienten solos, no comprendidos y con dificultad para poner en palabras lo que están viviendo.
También encontramos una tensión entre el derecho a estar informado y el derecho a ser resguardado, si, según el criterio familiar, hay información que puede dañar al paciente. Se considera necesario analizar cada caso en su singularidad. Impacto subjetivo en la población afectada. Las categorías que mencionaremos se deslindan a modo expositivo, pero están interrelacionadas entre sí. Los temas que aparecieron recurrentemente son la pérdida de autonomía. En la persona con ELA hay un duelo permanente por lo que se va perdiendo, así como una creciente dependencia. La autonomía, que está naturalizada en los adultos, al perderse se valora como algo excepcional.
Hay una sensación que tienen las personas diagnosticadas de ser una carga. Esto podría aparecer asociado a la incomodidad y a la culpa. La mirada de los otros cobra importancia en relación con la pérdida de autonomía y a la degradación de la imagen. El progresivo deterioro y la pérdida de funciones llevan a la representación del cuerpo como una cárcel, lo que se intensifica con el avance de la enfermedad. Hay una dificultad en identificarse con esta transformación del cuerpo y la propia imagen, lo que puede producir vergüenza. La vergüenza se asocia también con la dificultad o imposibilidad de valerse por sí mismos, para hablar, el tener que pedir ayuda o el temor a que no se los entienda.
Una de las consecuencias de la falta de autonomía y la vergüenza es el aislamiento. Puede acentuarse por el avance de la enfermedad, a veces producto de una decisión personal y otras producto de limitaciones, tanto físicas, de la comunicación, como de accesibilidad. El aislamiento también alcanza a los cuidadores. A veces hay un sentimiento de culpa por estar disfrutando mientras el familiar padece. Algunos familiares retrataron situaciones de maltrato por parte de los pacientes. Esto puede ser efecto del enojo ante la situación o por miedo a que el otro no lo escuche y morir. También puede estar relacionado con los casos de demencia frontotemporal. Generalmente hay profundos cambios en la dinámica familiar. Puede haber disputas, conflictos e incluso ausencias. Es común el alejamiento o ausencia de algunas personas alegando que no lo pueden ver así. Esto implica, para quienes sí permanecen acompañando, un exceso de trabajo y responsabilidades, y para la persona con ELA, dolor, desilusión, sentimiento de abandono y soledad.
Otra de las dimensiones es ideas respecto de la ELA, y aquí se contemplaron las creencias acerca del origen y el desarrollo de la enfermedad. Por la experiencia registrada en la Asociación ELA Argentina, se tenía una inquietud que mencionaban los pacientes y los familiares acerca de una posible causa psíquica del desencadenamiento de la enfermedad o de los síntomas, motivo por el cual decidimos incluir una pregunta en las encuestas y en las entrevistas. Esta pregunta fue: ¿hubo alguna situación extrema o traumática atravesada por la persona con ELA inmediatamente previa al inicio de los síntomas?
Encontramos algunas respuestas reiteradas en este sentido, por ejemplo, fallecimiento o enfermedad de un ser muy cercano, conflictos familiares intensos, crisis psicológicas. Se deja mencionada la hipótesis para una posterior investigación.
En ocasiones, la religión, la fe o las ideas se convierten en un sostén para sobrellevar la enfermedad, encontrarle un sentido o mantener viva la esperanza de una cura. A esto denominamos recursos simbólicos frente a la ELA. Otra de las ideas y creencias es la positividad. La exigencia de positividad implica creer que las ideas negativas pueden atraer enfermedades o empeorarlas, por lo que se deben desterrar forzadamente. En cambio, el mantener una actitud positiva podría incluso hacer desaparecer la enfermedad. Si bien estas creencias pueden basarse en buenas intenciones, también pueden hacer daños. Esto se puede transformar en una carga extra para el paciente. Por el contrario, alojar el padecimiento permite que el mismo se pueda elaborar.
Organización y reorganización práctica de la vida cotidiana. Los entornos requieren una reasignación de funciones y tareas. Generalmente, una de las personas queda sobrecargada, dejando de lado sus propios cuidados, incluso el de sus hijos y cónyuges. Cuesta pedir ayuda. Esto puede traer un riesgo para la salud física y mental del cuidador. Debido a la variedad de tratamientos, estudios y trámites, se requiere una disposición de tiempo que hace difícil dedicarse a otras actividades, lo cual impacta en una merma económica y de calidad de vida. Incluso si el paciente está en condiciones físicas de seguir trabajando, muchas veces lo emocional le hace imposible concentrarse en la tarea. La enfermedad toma toda la escena.
Muchas personas tienen complicaciones en relación a la accesibilidad a los servicios de salud, sobre todo cuando viven lejos de localidades céntricas. En la Argentina rige la Ley 24.901, que garantiza prestaciones y medicamentos gratuitos por parte del Estado a las personas con discapacidad a partir de la obtención del Certificado Único de Discapacidad. Sin embargo, tanto su obtención como a nivel subjetivo presenta dificultades. La burocracia es una constante. Esto ha sido permanentemente expresado por los afectados, víctimas del cansancio, la desazón y la angustia. En muchas ocasiones incluso se tiene que recurrir a asistencia legal.
Experiencias con los profesionales y con las instituciones de salud. Pareciera existir una deficiencia en la formación profesional que complejiza más el diagnóstico y tratamiento de la enfermedad. Se establece una diferencia entre los profesionales que atienden pacientes teniendo en cuenta la dimensión humana y aquellos que toman al paciente como objeto. Otra cuestión son las internaciones, que en muchos casos los pacientes terminan alejados de los únicos entornos que los entienden. En cuanto a los cuidados domiciliarios, se remarcó el desgaste de los cuidadores. Puede haber accidentes domésticos debido a la falta de conocimientos técnicos.
Finalmente, se destaca la importancia de hacer comunidad a través de instituciones de referencia para el acompañamiento y la orientación.
Llegamos a las conclusiones y recomendaciones. Las mismas fueron organizadas en 3 áreas. La primera, referida a sensibilización y formación profesional. Se propone indagar vacancias en la formación de profesionales de la salud, investigación educativa, promover cursos de grado y posgrado en las áreas de comunicación con el paciente, trabajo interdisciplinario, formación específica para la detección y tratamiento de la ELA. Se sugiere cautela en el modo de dar el diagnóstico, la información que se brinda y en qué momento se da la misma, los pronósticos que se hacen, así como el hecho de tener en cuenta el acompañamiento del paciente a la hora de dar la noticia y el seguimiento posterior.
El segundo grupo de conclusiones y sugerencias tiene que ver con emergencias y atención. Se sugiere que los pacientes cuenten con su historia clínica, así como la confección de un instructivo simple y claro ante la eventualidad de tener que recurrir a una guardia o a una atención domiciliaria de emergencia. Que se confeccione un protocolo de orientación sobre los múltiples abordajes profesionales que se deben tener en cuenta para la atención de los pacientes. Que se confeccione un protocolo de trámites e insumos posteriores al diagnóstico a disposición de instituciones de salud y de los afectados. Que se supervisen obras sociales, prepagas e instituciones públicas para que provean en tiempo y forma lo que es prescrito por los médicos tratantes. Que se cuente con centros de internación indicados para personas con ELA que no tengan la posibilidad de una internación domiciliaria y que se considere la creación de un centro especializado en atención de ELA.
Finalmente, quedan otros aspectos a considerar para los cuales se sugiere desarrollar un manual de orientación de cambios edilicios para accesibilidad, revisar el nombre discapacidad del Certificado Único de Discapacidad, ya que produce un impacto subjetivo, llevar adelante campañas de visibilización y concientización que apunten a reconocer el lugar de los sujetos más allá de su situación de enfermedad.
Sumar y fortalecer espacios para el acompañamiento, contención y orientación de los afectados. Incrementar los fondos destinados a investigación científica, tanto en el ámbito médico como social y humanístico. Muchas gracias por su atención y los invitamos a leer el informe completo.
Thank you so much, Pablo and Darío. I think that was a great presentation. Now we have 6 minutes for questions. 5? Oh, sorry, 5. Kathy?
I have 2 questions. And one is about process and one is about the content. It was a fantastic presentation, thank you. And my process question is, qualitative data is hard to get the information from because you get so many words. And I just wondered if you used any AI to analyze the data or if a human did that through some sort of manual process. So that's my process question. And then my content question is related to fantastic findings. How are you going to prioritize what you do?
Great question, by the way.
Es la segunda parte de este proyecto que llevó adelante un grupo de investigadores científicos en la parte social durante 6 meses y ahora viene todo el desarrollo de la parte cualitativa que vamos a llevarlo adelante con propuestas concretas.
Thank you for your questions, Kathy. Both of your questions are going to be part of the second part of this process where we are going to measure the impact, precisely where you were talking earlier. And as regards your first question, we only use human beings for yes, I mean, we haven't been using AI yet so far, but yes, for now we use our team of health professionals, like the 2 ladies that you've seen in the video. So now is the second part of the process where we need to precisely process the results of this series of interviews, right?
El año que viene traemos los resultados.
And next year we will present the results. Sounds good?
Thank you, Pablo and Dario. That was, again, I agree with Kathy, fantastic project and great outcomes. You mentioned early on in the presentation about, in some cases, you consider withholding information from patients. What information and why?
You mean for diagnosis?
Yeah, during diagnosis.
Okay. En una parte de la presentación se habla de no transmitir toda la información, o tener cuidado en realidad, lo que dice la presentación con respecto a la información en el diagnóstico. Si querés, puedo responder.
No, simplemente que tenemos muchas dificultades en la transmisión del diagnóstico y en el poco cuidado humano de esa transmisión y la importancia de tener protocolos y ser lo más sensibles posible a la crudeza, y eso impacta negativamente.
We just identified, thanks to this research project, we had identified the different challenges of breaking the news at the moment of diagnosis, and the different ways in which health professionals should deliver this information, depending also on the characteristics of each patient. So it was not that much about withholding information. It was more about being cautious with the way you deliver, not only the content of the information you are delivering, but also the way is also important. By the way, we translated into Spanish. I'm sure many of you heard about the Breaking the News project. Last year was presented in San Diego. We translated all those short videos into Spanish, and that is also available through our website and through the Alliance's website. Right? Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gethin. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you so much, Paula and Darío.
Thank you so much.
Okay, up next we have Tanya Khoury with her presentation, The Growing Organization, A Gift, Opportunity, and Mini Leadership Challenge.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. Apparently, I'm the new chief exec of the MND Association. I've done nearly a year now, but I will take the new girl card for this conference. So thank you for that. The title of the presentation was really about coming into an organisation that's incredibly well established, over 40 years old, running well, has had great leadership from my predecessor, Sally Light, for 10 years before me. And actually then the new girl comes. And what does that mean for an organisation that's changing with different leadership? I think for most of the leaders in the room, the chief execs, the directors, people that are running our services, sometimes we get seen by our title. And actually, when I put this slide together, it was a real moment for me of actually, I really believe in authentic leadership and being your true whole self at work. So my true whole self that's me there with a terrible haircut, and I have no idea who the dog belonged to, but it wasn't ours. I don't know, we must have kidnapped it or something. That's me with my mum. I must have been about 4, I suppose. And my mum died when I was 14 years old, and she died of end-stage cancer. So not MND, but actually I saw someone lose themselves in a process, and my life, I guess, was shaped from being a 14-year-old without a mum and where that takes you. I left home at 17 and decided I wanted to be a nurse. I guess now I'm older, I can work out where that came from. But I absolutely loved it. And I kind of still describe myself as a nurse, but don't worry, I'd be dangerous out there now on the clinical floor, so I stay well away. I specialised in palliative care, end-of-life care, and I've worked in the charity sector for about 23, 24 years now. And that's me at the staff conference when I joined the MND Association. I think I was 7 weeks into post, and I needed to come along and speak to all the staff who were waiting in anticipation. And I have a partner, and I have kids, and I have a cat, and I'm a daughter. I'm all of those things. But actually, when you see me at work, most people see me as the chief exec. So the MND Association has been on a real growth journey, and I just wanted to kind of demonstrate some of that. So we actually grew during the COVID time. And when we look back at this, you know, we've gone from an organisation that was just under £20 million in income, and we will probably close our books at the end of this year on about 32, around that mark. And actually, with that growth brings expectation, it brings challenge. I actually don't think I've worked in a charity where I haven't had to be lean or really think about transformation and efficiencies and how we do things in a different way. So to come in and know that we have some money in the bank, that we can really invest it well, is a bit of a gift, but it's also a bit of a challenge on the same vein. My finance director, I think, is getting nervous because I'm quite good at spending some of the money, but hopefully doing it in the right way. So in 1979, the association was set up by a group of people with MND, as lots of associations and groups are. They came together through a powerful cause because it was that united them. So from small beginnings, we're now just over 220 staff, 89 volunteer groups over the 3 nations, and 22 care centres across England, Wales and Northern Ireland. We have around 10,000 volunteers who work alongside us and actually who are our army along the way. When I wanted to try and pull some stats together for this presentation, there was my first challenge, because not a lot really existed. And I really wanted to think about, what have we done over the time? What's the impact? How do we demonstrate that? We've heard a lot about impact this morning, so thank you. My to-do list has now doubled within a couple of hours. So we are supporting more people with MND. We are awarding more grants to people, so more financial support. And we've seen that during the cost of living crisis, that people have really struggled across our country. They're really struggling with the day-to-day. They're really struggling with how they pay their electricity bills and how they support their families. And our grants value has increased. But also thinking about what Kathy said with our research portfolio, you know, we're hitting just under £21 million now for our own research portfolio, which feels enormous, exciting, but also gives us an opportunity. I guess one of the things we think about when we come into an organisation as leaders is, what's the culture? How do I, you know, start to absorb some of this? Everyone's looking at me as the chief exec. So what I felt was the commitment across the staff base, and it goes without saying the volunteer cohort as well, has been one of people absolutely loving their job. I've not met one single person who's grumbled about why they're there, who's totally motivated by the cause. And actually, as you will know, as well as I know, that's a leadership gift, that people are cause-driven, they're driven by their purpose and the purpose of the charity. They love their job, there was no doubt about that. But what I also saw was these massive silos in the organisation. An organisation that met very frequently as varying teams actually were almost surprised at some meetings as to what their colleagues were doing. And it took me a while to kind of really think that one through. And we're a very stable, very solid organisation. With stability and solidity, it sometimes means people can be quite set in what they're doing and their heads are down and they're delivering. And it felt to me like I was about to try and turn the Titanic, even just a little way. And when we're talking in a language of transformation and agility and speed and actually making good decisions quickly for people, sometimes that doesn't quite fit when you're trying to do that on the Titanic. So it was all about leadership in action. a very helpful colleague of mine sent me a book about your first 100 days as chief exec. I'd been a chief exec in a number of organisations before, so I kind of knew what I was coming into. I'd worked as a management consultant for the previous 5 years and had done lots of transformation in different charities. So I was very solid in my mind. I'm coming in here as the permanent chief exec to really lead this fabulous organisation, and I need to take some time. I need to not come in with an interim mindset. So I had a plan. I was going to speak to everyone, probably drink lots of tea, get myself around the country, listen to what people were telling me. I'd read lots of books, as we all do. I'd listened to the podcasts. I'd got my kind of plan in my brain. The organisation was clearly anticipating my arrival, some good, some bad, some nervous, I'm sure. And I was also taking over from some very big shoes. Well, actually, they were little because Sally was quite small, wasn't she? But some very big shoes of leadership that had given that real consistency and clarity for over 10 years. As soon as I arrived, I had loads of people asking me loads of things and lots of people saying, "Oh, we've been waiting for you because we just need to talk about this and we need you to decide on that." And I've got the books in one side of my brain and the reality in the other. And then as 2023 progressed and I was only 6-7 weeks in, we had a moment in the external landscape for our community that seemed to turn all of that on its head. And one of my colleagues who I brought in to actually help over that time, the amount of times he said to me, "You need to get your tin hat on and just get on with it." Okay, I'll try my best to do that. So we had a little bit of a storm in 2023. I'm talking like it's gone, but you know what I mean. It's kind of settling, I hope, as we speak. We, at the symposium last year, released some top-line data on one of the clinical trials that we were involved in. There was a level of promise with that release of data. There was a level of hope that was given to the MND community about what a potential treatment could look like. The anticipation was building from the community. The need is definitely there, so we saw it. But actually what we saw was a whole new level of engagement and focus. At this point, I'd just like to thank some of my colleagues in the room who were very kind at the end of a phone on numerous calls for me going, "I don't know what to do, I can't do it, help me, because you've been here before." We had a community that were getting quite fractious about a seeming inability for us to move this forward. It actually wasn't in our gift to move the treatment forward because we were still awaiting the data and we were one part of a very, very big wheel that was turning. What it did was it threw the spotlight on the organisation in a way that none of us, I think, in the organisation that had been there a long time had ever experienced. We had a community that we were there to serve. We were being criticised because it looked like we weren't serving them. We were in the Titanic, which is huge, to mobilise quickly. And actually what we needed to do was to respond at speed, respond with pace and conviction, and make some really big decisions. The difficulty when you're doing that as a chief exec that had been in the organisation about 10 weeks by this time was really, really hard. What we learned was that moment actually destabilised our charity for about 4 months. It really sucked every bit of resource into that. What it showed me was our kind of planning wasn't there. When we were talking about strategy this morning, it was about a strategic mindset across the whole organisation. And actually that wasn't in existence, and it's something we're really working on. You talked earlier about making priorities like no other. You have to really, really decide what you're going to do as a charity, because actually doing everything is impossible, because actually it benefits no one. So our planning wasn't quite there. We kind of went into headless chicken mode at the start, but we got ourselves out of that. Our response was flawed because we were trying to be all things to all people. We wouldn't actually nail our sail to the mast and say, this is what we're going to do as an association, because we genuinely didn't know. And it was a moment for us, a real test of resilience and leadership. The amount of times I said to my social media team, I'm coming off Twitter, I can't do it, I can't cope with it anymore. And they talk me down, and you get really grounded about why you're here. So what did we learn in that time? Well, we learned as a very established organisation that we need to be much more decisive. We need to be quicker, and we need to be much more confident with what we're doing. And actually what it showed us was we didn't have a strategy for this. We didn't have a plan. We hadn't quite linked up what was coming from research, access to treatments, the regulatory process, and what that meant for people with MND. I talk about authentic leadership, so this is a very honest account of where I felt we were. But actually, we weren't quite ready, and the community had really felt that it was coming down the track, but for some reason, we weren't there where we needed to be with them. You need to really make sure that you've got the right people with the right skills in the right area. Lots of us were trying to do lots of things and actually not leaning on the experience. And when you come in as the new leader, it's really quite hard to understand where all your community are with you and who can lead on certain parts. We got really scared. I mean, we got really nervous at this point. We were taking a hammering on social media. My email inbox was just ridiculous. And, you know, we did laugh because there was one stage where I thought people might be outside my house, which I know is not funny because some of you guys have really had that level of passion in your associations. We made a comms plan and we had to stick to it. I didn't. I thought I'd go off piste a bit, and that drove my comms team mad, and that was a massive lesson learned for me. But actually through all of this, I learned the really important thing to do is to always be your authentic self. I work with compassion, I work with kindness. I'm not afraid to make really hard decisions, but actually I go back to slide 1. I'm always the nurse. I'm always there to understand what people really need from us. And actually the whole thing was a bit of a strange opportunity, but it really has helped me think about what's next for our organisation. So what does the next year involve? So spoiler alert for my team in the room. We need to really plan well. We need to really work on our strategy and talk about what does that mean. And actually we need to stop being all things to all people, and we need to try and hone that down and think about where do we add value, who do we partner with, where do others lead in this space, and how do we work really well together with our partners around the table. We need to have some flexibility and some agility. We need to develop our leadership and really build that culture, because it's great having a strategy, but if your culture isn't geared to deliver and be with you, then that actually makes it really difficult. And for me, it was about always remembering that in every single decision and every moment, we are here for the MND community. And if I can't go to bed at night thinking I've made the right decision for that community, then I know I'm in the wrong job. And I think we all hold that dear at the association. And on a practical level, book the holidays. You need the break. You need to rely on your team. And remember that you have a fabulous community around you. Thank you. I'm still on Twitter, look. I'm still there. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Tanya. Thank you so much, Tanya. Okay, I invite our guests to have some questions, if you have any questions. Right here, and Gujin.
Thank you for your... Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to comment on your association that you have excellent educational home page, And what is important is that you share it with the rest of the world. And we are one of the lucky ones to be able to translate these pages and information into Icelandic, not having to deal with all the heavy stuff. So I wanted to thank you for your excellent work.
Thank you very much. I take no credit for it whatsoever. The team are brilliant. And I think what we've seen is we have to remember what we do well and really work on how we demonstrate that impact. And actually being here today makes us realise we're part of a much bigger community where we need to share more and learn more from each other. So thank you.
Thank you. You had a question? We can't hear you.
There.
Oh.
Susan Brumby from Australia. Tanya, I noticed on your graph that your association grew during COVID, and I was just wondering what you think that was down to, given that we were a world that shut down.
Yeah, thank you. Great question, and I've clearly missed it from my presentation. We had a really interesting moment. So we've had a number of rugby players who have been diagnosed with MND. And actually one of those players, Rob Burrow, and his friend Kevin Sinfield, have taken fundraising and profile raising to a whole new level. So Rob was diagnosed in 2019. So actually that has driven a huge amount of our growth. So we have seen the community galvanized like nothing that we've ever known. I mean, Kevin is doing a massive ultra marathon for us over these current 7 days. And actually what that did was pulled the whole MND community. It gave us national publicity. It gave us a profile that it would cost you a fortune if you were to trying to buy it, you know, through media. So actually the whole MND community got behind us and money came in because your marketing and your profile and your presence was there. So actually that's what drove the majority of the growth during that time. So we were really fortunate and we have tried to get hold of that. There is still a lot more to go because we know the growth is still there, but it will plateau at some stage. Thank you.
Okay, we have to wrap this up. No? I mean, you're the boss, so. I actually do have to wrap this up, so I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Tanya, for your presentation.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, up next, I got blushed and everything. Up next, I'd like to welcome Dr. Melinda Kavanagh on stage, please, for her presentation, Global Neuro YCare.
Good morning. As you see in the program, I am supposed to be joined by one Dr. François Henning, who came all the way from Cape Town and then got waylaid in Munich and is currently still waylaid in Munich. Unfortunately, he's been texting me. He's in his warm weather South African clothing, and he can't really even leave the airport or the hotel because he doesn't have anything to wear. So just wanted to say that I will be presenting this on my own, but François was going to present with me. He is a board member to our foundation, and so it was really important to share his voice as well. So I'm Melinda Kavanagh. I'm a professor of social worker. I'm also a licensed clinical social work, and I am incredibly excited to talk about this organization. I'm sure over the years you all have heard me present in various different ways and in different presentations about my research, my clinical work, really around focusing on children and youth in families with ALS and MND. But I also do work across other neurological disorders. And what really stood out through all of these presentations observations and through all of the research over the years is that A, there's not enough research in this area, and two, on a global scale, we really have a gap. There is a really a large missing area that says what projects and research and work being done in one area needs to and very well can be translated and applied in another area and language as well. So I took that ball and ran with it. So very briefly, I am an academic, so I'm going to try not to have a billion slides, but bear with me. Why are we focusing on children and youth? What we do know is that children and youth rarely have all of the information. Often it's because parents are concerned, they're scared, they don't have the information. So therefore, that's one way we have a gap in families, that children and youth really don't have all of the information and the support. What we also know is that children and youth are what we call young carers. So as young as 6 in my research across diseases, children are actively engaged in care. And that means that they are bathing, feeding, toileting, transferring, dressing, really providing hands-on care. But the level of education and support and information provided to these children is really not there, regardless of where you are in the world. Shout out to the UK, doing a really good job on that. Not a shout out to the US, doing a terrible job on that. What we do know about global programs that really address children and youth who are caregivers, children and youth living in families with illness, they focus on HIV/AIDS, they focus on cancer, or they focus on children themselves with an illness. And very few global, and I mean few as in a handful or fewer than that, really address neurological disorders, and that does include ALS and MND. Oops. So in creating Global Neuro YCare, we took a step back, and a lot of the work, like I said, I've been doing this for many years, but I haven't been doing it in isolation by any stretch of the imagination. I have been able to collaborate with some of the most amazing organizations, a lot of whom are in this room, in addition to other organizations that represent neurological disorders around the world. So as a licensed clinical social worker, I spent many years working with families directly in clinical settings, directly in homes, nursing homes, long-term care. I also do all my research. I'm a developmentalist. And understanding all of these things and working with different organizations, really building all of these relationships and people saying, why don't we have more? What can we do? How can we do this? How can we work together? And one of the things that I want to make sure is really, really important through all of this is the words, the voices, and the engagement of the children are front and center to our organization. All of the research I do uses their words. All of the books, all of the programs that I have created over the years, myself and my colleagues, have been absolutely driven by the children and their families so that we make sure that their voices are front and center and their voices are heard above and beyond the adult voices in the room. So what is our mission? So we are an international nonprofit organization. We are based in the United States, but our board is actually an international board. So we are not an exclusive US organization by any stretch. So we seek to engage organizations, quite a few of you in this room, develop education for children, youth, families, and professionals, and provide support programs for young carers. And that last piece, again, is critical because very few places around the world really address the role that children and youth play as a caregiver. And I'll talk in a minute about one of the programs we have. So our tagline is kind of across the globe, across neurological disorders. And one thing I know in speaking with different conferences and different presentations in the US and around the world across developmental kind of groups and neurological disorders. Tanya said just a moment ago about silos. Boy, there's a lot of silos there. And a lot of the work I do in Alzheimer's and related dementia, a lot of the work I do in Huntington's disease and in ALS and MND, they're all very, very similar, but nobody's talking. So that's another thing that's really important to us as a nonprofit is to continue to try to reach across those lines. So the first thing we do is educate. Many years ago, I had the absolute fortune to receive funding and support from the ALS Association to start creating books for children and families. And these books were all born out of, again, my research, the interviews. What do the children know? What do they not know? What do they need to know? And so we have a whole series of books for young children, kind of tween children, young adults, a family guide, as well as a guide for school personnel. And I also had the really great fortune a number of years ago to be contacted by organizations to say, how can we translate these books? How can we get them in our language? And actually the first organization was the Swiss organization. And they reached out, and it's now in French and German, thanks to the Swiss organization. But the graphic novel is also in Dutch, thanks to ALS Netherlands. It's in Afrikaans, Zulu, Sesotho, and Xhosa, which is a combination of collaboration with the MND South Africa. I'm also in talks, or not talks because everything is freely available. I'm also in communication with the Portuguese Association and Korean. So we will have the graphic novel also in Portuguese and Korean soon. You'll also see the YCare book there. I'll talk about YCare in a minute, but YCare has also been translated into all 4 of the South African languages, and it's in process of being translated into Spanish as well. So you'll see that our goal is to not keep anything close, is to keep everything as broad as possible and as accessible as possible. Our next project, which we are incredibly excited to get started on, is developing professional education for healthcare providers. Someone mentioned breaking the news a moment ago, and I have the absolute honor to be a faculty member that helped create that program. And it is so impressive to see how many people respond to the need for healthcare providers, for allied health professionals, to really have that support in how to deliver not only an initial diagnosis, but along the way of the prognosis and living with ALS. Well, something very similar has been frequently asked of me, and I've given multiple webinars on this topic over the years, is how to help our families have that conversation. And without that conversation, how is that impacting their clinical care and their own progression as someone living with the illness or the adult caregiver? So we're putting together a program that's going to be webinar, in-person workshops, and educational materials that will help the provider start and have that conversation with the family, because there's a wall there that often goes up. So that's our next project. So I'm very, very proud of this slide because this shows how wonderful engagement can be and how important it is for us to partner with as many organizations as possible. The one I realize is not up there. My bad. You're not looking, are you, Kathy? The International Alliance isn't up there. But I'm up here, so that means there we are, right? Don't look. I know, really, Melinda. But one of the, another program we're working with is ALS Canada, developing program for children around genetics. How do they understand it? How do we talk to them about it? It's a fantastic partnership. As you see, the Korean Association translating all the books into Korea. South Africa, I've been working in South Africa for almost 10 years now. It's my second home, and it's the most extraordinary group of people who are extremely dedicated to how to figure out how to do this work with beyond low-resourced areas. So, and also our industry partners, both Amylyx and MT Pharma, have been incredibly supportive of our work and really reaching out and helping us understand how we can help children and youth. I'm ignoring you, Jess. So the YCare program, I'll go super quick because I really want to get to the other. The YCare program is our youth caregiving training program, has been going on for many years now. We've expanded it into Alzheimer's disease and related dementias, autism, and Parkinson's disease. We also have a program in collaboration with New York University on cancer care. This is where we give children and youth the hands-on support. They get to meet peers, they get to meet health professionals, they get to learn the care skills that they're missing, but they get to develop that support and peer-engaged program as part of that engagement. The other thing I'm really excited about is our film Lukey and the Lights. So we're going to be premiering it tonight. This is also, you'll see here, is a coloring and activity book that I worked on really, really closely with the producers of the film. And I'll be introducing them in just a second. But Sasha, she's looking at me. It's an animated short film about a robot who gets ALS. The key piece here is that there's no language. The whole point of us over all the years, and we were counting them down the years last night. I've been involved in it for 4 years. Sasha and Anjo, who are sitting right over here to my right, my Dutch fabulousness over there. Yes, absolutely. Round of applause. So they wrote this story because when Anya was diagnosed with ALS, they didn't know how to say that to their children. And while there were some resources, there wasn't something really extremely clear and easily digestible. So what they did is they wrote the story. They reached out to see who can make an animated film. Sasha's just a rock star. Connected up with Big Grin Productions, that is an actual animated Hollywood frou-frou organization. And then Sasha also reached out to me and said, hey, I'm writing this film and you do children and youth. You want to play? And I said, absolutely. So that was 4 years ago. And in the entirety of those 4 years, we have had so much support, not the least of which initial support through the ALS Dutch Association that has been really wonderful from the beginning. And most recently, and most importantly, a massive financial support from the ALS Association, who has really given us the oomph and the boost to be able to get this film out there. So we're incredibly excited for you to see it. You'll be able to see it tonight, but it'll be available to the world come early spring. And our goal with this film not only is to have it be no language, so it's available to everybody. We have the coloring book. Something I didn't show was to see that Ask Lukey at the bottom. We've put together a whole packet of educational materials where Lukey is the robot, kind of guides children into asking the questions, gives them that kind of comforting, fun robot, so it's a little less scary and stigmatizing when you're talking about ALS. The last thing, and here's a little still from the film, little teaser, super cool. The last thing that we do as an organization, and this was born out of my initial work going into South Africa, when I first started going, the clinics that I worked with said, hey, do you have any things in the US you can bring to us? And I was like, okay, so what? That built into bringing multiple suitcases of donated supplies. And sometimes those supplies are as basic as a gait belt. Sometimes they're more complex. I have brought communication devices. I have brought BiPAP machines, all donated by families in the community where I am. I'm based in Wisconsin, where I'm a professor of social work at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. So that is a real key piece that we want to make sure we keep doing as a foundation, because children and youth, in providing care, often don't have the tools to provide care. And sometimes these tools are, again, as basic as a gait belt, but sometimes they're more complex. So one of our real excitements is to be able to build this beyond just with South Africa. I just got that. Okay, so we would love to hear from you. We would love to talk with you about continuing collaborations, building more kind of organizational connections, translating more materials, and it's an absolute honor to be here, and thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kawana, for that presentation. Do we have any questions from the audience? Oh, over there, please.
Hi, my name's David. I'm a patient fellow. And I was curious if you could talk a little bit about when you're doing training of youth and children, how you balance training them versus what's appropriate or inappropriate for a young person to be doing, because it sounds like they're covering lots of different functions.
No, it's a really great question. Well, first of all, I am a licensed clinical social worker with many years of training in clinical care and children and developmental science. So we approached it from what do children understand, how do they learn, and what are kind of those limits? right? So in developing it, we did go through many iterations where we talked with the children, we talked with the parents. What worked, what didn't work? Were there some anxieties? Were there some fears? We also work with all of the multidisciplinary healthcare professionals that are part of it. They go through a training to be a YCare professional. So anytime a child says, I don't know, they're immediately pulled out. We give them support. We ask the question. Sometimes it's just overwhelming simply being in a room with that many people who understand what you're going through. Quite frankly, that's a lot of the emotional response we get from the children is they're for the first time in a fully supported understanding group and with peers like themselves. But we have also been very careful about what skills we teach them and don't teach them. We ask them what they're already doing and what do they need help with. One of the things we ran into when we did it in South Africa, and we completely revamped it to the South African context, was they wanted more training on wound care and bed sores, whereas in the US we don't see that as much. So we do adapt it according to the cultural context, but they have a professional guide with them at that time.
Yeah. Okay, we had another question.
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation and all the great work you do. I wanted to call out, shout out the work that you and ALS Canada, Paula, David, you all are doing on the genetics for children. You know, currently as in the genetic community, we do refer people to the HDYO website, which I know you helped create lots of wonderful material.
Yeah.
So I wanted to cheer that. And I also did want to ask, as a person in this space, you know, in the genetic community, studies are starting to go into childhood because they're, you know, seeing the impacts of these diseases starting very early. Is there best practices for neurological, you know, brain-based research into children? And how could we best be advocates together on that? I just wanted to raise that.
No, there absolutely is. There's actually more research going into that area, but one of the maybe cautionary tales or the concerns, particularly when it surrounds disorders that are genetic. So I'll take an example, you know, given my history in Huntington's disease, you know, most of the healthcare and physician medical organizations in the United States don't test anyone under the age of 18 for a genetic disorder unless it does present prior to that age, right? So if we're talking about adult onset genetic disorders, most of them do have very strict guidelines about when we do and don't test minors unless they do present clinically, and there is a juvenile Huntington's version. But, you know, it becomes much more complicated when the family is trying to plan and the family is trying to understand implications and what they can and cannot do. And I always, when families have brought this up, strongly encourage them to connect with their genetic counselor. There's a wonderful kind of group of professionals in genetic counseling that can help them walk through that. But that's usually the thing that we have run into the most is the age and the consent and when you can and can't test based on when the disease typically presents itself. That's a good question.
We
Thanks,
have
Jean.
one more from the chat group.
Yes, so the Aspa Carabella from the Hellenic ALS Association, being formed in Greece.
Nice.
Would love to translate the books in Greek.
And we would love to translate the books into Greek. Yes. That sounds fabulous. Yeah, absolutely. So all of my information was on the slide. It's, you know, and the whole goal is to get these books out as quickly as possible in as many languages as possible. So let's do it in Greek.
Yeah. Remember, you have the virtual access to the portal. You can text the speakers or anybody in the meeting through there. So we have one more question from Gujin.
I wonder if there is any possibility to publish your books on the internet.
They already are. They already are.
Because books sound expensive and difficult to spread around, but I would love to make this Icelandic version on the internet.
net or our home page?
Absolutely. So the majority of the books have always been available on the ALS Association website. All of the books plus all of the translations, including the most recent South African translations, are also available on the Global Neuro YCare website. We just partnered with caregiving.com, which is a very large online caregiving resource in the United States. They have no resources for children and youth as caregivers, so our graphic novel is the first and only resource at the national level for children who are caregivers, and it represents families in ALS and motor neuron disease. So that's also, all of them are freely available. You can download them PDF. You can just read them online. You can do whatever you want. Absolutely. They're all there.
Okay. That's all the time we have. Thank you, Dr. Kavanaugh. Just so you know, in your welcome package, everybody got a ticket to see the movie tonight. So don't be late. Okay, up next, we have our final presentation in this section. It's actually a demonstration of a communications app from Richard Cave.
I've actually spent the morning writing copious notes because I've been so inspired by what has been said. And I kind of woke up this morning and I knew what I was going to say, and now I've changed it all. So I just want to say just a few things before I demo this thing. Commitment. That was something that came up today. I see a room full of committed people. We're all committed. And I just love working with groups like ours because I know that we all care. And when we care, good things happen. Leadership. It feels like we're all leaders. We're all leaders in our world because we want to do the right thing, and we do the right thing, and we have to say the right things, and we say those things. And that, to me, is great leaders. Change. So I should have started with my name. So my name is Richard. I'm a speech therapist, and I work with the M&D Association, and I work with Google, and I'm doing a PhD, just about to finish it, thank God. And it's all about the same thing. It's all about technology, making technology work for people living with ALS. People with ALS first, technology second. We do it that way round. Change. I thought this was going to be the first meeting I've been to in about 3 months where AI was not mentioned. AI was already mentioned. And AI, artificial intelligence, is talked about everywhere for good reason, because this technology is so powerful and has so many opportunities for our community. We need to talk about it because AI is already here and it's already changing lives. I talk at length about AI and ALS MND in the presentation which I'll be doing on Tuesday, and I'm hoping that you'll be there, but if you're not there, then I'll be happy to talk about it out in the hallway or whatever. But one of the big challenges that we have about AI is, where do people with ALS MND fit? Because currently, from what I'm seeing in all sorts of big tech companies, we are not being talked about enough. And yet the real benefits to AI could be significant, are significant for our community. So with change such as AI comes opportunity, and we need to find ways to actually take it. And that comes down to authenticity. All these great words, I was writing them all down. Authenticity means, like when I'm at Google, just going on and on and on and on about the same thing in all the meetings. When are people with MND ALS going to be included in your stuff? When are people with MND ALS going to be invited and to partner with you? Because if you're writing for our community, you need us there. So I've just seen I've got 2 minutes left. So I'm going to demo. I have a stall, I have a table, which the amazing people, Kathy and Jen, put out for me, and I'm demoing it all day long, today and tomorrow. 2 different tools, both use AI, and they're both co-developed by people living with MND, because it can be done. Let's see if I can... So the first one's called Relate. It's a live transcription. It transcribes people's speech that has changed. Live, you train it. So the idea is that a listener can better understand what a person says, and by default, then people feel more confident about talking and participating in life, even though their speech has changed. We want everybody to keep talking for as long as they can. This is Lynn. Lynn lives with ALS MND, and she wanted to come, but she sent this video. And I've been working with her on this project.
My name is Lynn. I live in Westwall, which is what advances the tennis. I've been married for 50 years. We like to travel and visit the USA and Australia.
Okay, so now she actually had the Relate app running on her phone, and these are the captions.
My name is Lynn. I live in Westwall, which is what advances the tennis. I've been married for 50 years. We like to travel and visit the USA and Australia.
All right, hands up who thought those captions helped. Yeah. Now, this tech is not like the golden bullet. It needs training. It needs work done to it. And that's another thing about authenticity. I'm not here to sell anything. I'm here to educate and empower. So if people can make their own decisions about if they want to spend the time to train the app. But for people that I've worked with, sometimes it works well. It usually works well in certain situations with certain people. But it works well in those. The last thing, and I'm not looking at Jen because she's probably saying -8 minutes. The last thing I want to demo, sorry, I won't demo here, but I will demo out in the hall, is this tool called Mind's Eye, which is it generates AI-generated art based on what people type in. They could type in anything. I love you. How are you? They could type anything using any modality. So if a person uses eye gaze, if they use a switch, head mouse, direct access, any combination. If they use Grid 3 or Grid for iPad, they can use this and it's free, just as long as they have those apps. They type in anything. And people living with MND ALS were co-designing it, and they came up with 5 use cases. One was just to have fun. The second was to express themselves. The third was for self-reflection. And my laptop has just gone off. And the fourth one was to a demonstration of competence, because people, it goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and often just writing something just to show that they're the same person inside. And I think it's great, and kind of 1,000 people have signed up to use it already. It's only been out 6 months, and I'm very excited about it. Time is up. Please end. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, do we have any questions? Dr. Hamanji?
How many speak and treatment with MNT in real time? How many? How many speak and treatment with MNT in real time?
How in your speed help people with emitting in video?
Yeah.
How many speak and treatment with MNT in real time?
How many years sped have had people when emitting in Nidden?
So how many people does this app help?
What she wanted to ask was, how will this app help people with MND in real time?
It's and by the way, Himanshi, thank you so much. That's the first time Himanshi's used it. So thank you for doing it in front of like all these people. Honestly, Himanshi's amazing. Exactly that. That, you know, this is a type of assistive technology that doesn't replace anything. It adds, it encourages people to keep talking. And, you know, most of the people I work as speech therapists, I'm sure it's the same with you, is people want to keep talking and be understood. And what this does is it keeps people talking at the rate of speech. But there's more, because when you talk, you have all the pauses, you have all the stresses, the facial expression, the eye contact, everything is also there too. Nothing gets taken away. So the goal is to keep people talking because it's such a better alternative than having to use another device, because it's not only slow, it also excludes other modalities.
Okay, I'm sorry we do not have more time for questions, but Richard...
But there was a great question there, look.
Richard is here in his stand outside, so you can see him and just ask him all the questions you want these couple of days. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so this brings up to the end of this section of the programming. Thank you so much for having me as your moderator, and thank you to the speakers. So here's the plan for the next hour and 15 minutes, because we ran late, 5 minutes. First, please make your way to the foyer where we will be taking a group photo together. And once we've taken the photo, we will let you go and enjoy the buffet-style lunch. Well, we will then resume the programming back at 2 p.m. Switzerland time. Take that in mind. And please, everyone, let's go to the foyer right now and let's take the group photo before the lunch. Thank you.